Welcome to Health Exchange. I'm your host, Kimberly King, and the show today is on animal health. And our guest speaker today is Josh Kimball, the Whitman Police Regional Animal Control Officer. That's a mouthful.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I know back in 1835 was when animal control was first put into legislation.
Yeah, and that's when they thought that dogs were evil if they ran out loose. We have since come a long way since then.
How has the system changed since 1835 from, like you said, the evil stray dog to now of the pet-loving, I cannot do without my fur baby?
Well, a lot of things have changed. You know, people nowadays, an animal is a part of the family. That's part of it. Back then, dogs basically they worked. They weren't pets. They were more a tool, and people use dogs for herding cattle, which most still do today. We do see it in some of the towns that we work in, and we hear it from other animal control officers. But the majority of dogs today will, they're smaller dogs. You get teacup dogs, little dogs like that, and they're house pets. And you do have people that you come across that will have Australian Shepherds and stuff like that, which are really, they're herding dogs and they're meant to work. But they still have them as pets, and that's perfectly 100% fine. But from way back then, we have come a long way since people have worked their dogs, and a lot of people back then, a dog was never allowed in the house, never mind allowed on someone's bed. So we have come a long way, and the way I see it, it's great.
And an animal control officer is appointed under MGL 140, Section 151. And an animal inspector is appointed under MGL 129, Section 15. Can you please explain to us the difference between an ACO and an animal inspector? And on top of that, as a follow-up, explain to the folks, since we're regionalized, the importance of, you may be an animal inspector in Whitman, however, you're the wrong person to contact for Abington and Hanson.
Right. So an animal control officer, we're the person that will get called if someone finds a dog in the town, dog is running loose, dog has bit someone, dog is basically we have come from the term dog officer. Back in 2012, a lot of the whole state has actually changed from dog officer to animal control officer, because now we attend to wildlife issues. We will attend to wildlife that is being a nuisance, but we'll refer you to another company for that service, because it gets into a whole other thing with fish and wildlife. And then we also deal with injured wildlife is our main concern. If we have an injured animal in the road, stuff like that, an animal control officer will respond to that. And an animal inspector is more for animal health. The animal inspector will quarantine a dog or a cat or a ferret when it comes with if it bites someone. If it bites a human, it has the dog or cat or ferret has to be put under a 10-day quarantine. And that is to make sure it is not rabid, and it's just a precaution. A cat, the same thing if it bites a human or a ferret. If the dog goes out for the day, he goes on his daily stroll around the neighborhood, comes back and he has a wound and the owner is not sure of it, that's considered a wound of unknown origin. He would be quarantined for either 45 days or 6 months. And the same thing for a cat or a ferret. And all of that is the duty of the animal inspector. The animal inspector is appointed under Chapter 129, which is animal health law. So that's the main difference between the two. Towns can also appoint, like myself in Whitman, I am the animal inspector. And towns can appoint their animal inspector to be such, but it's 100% different from animal control. And a lot of people, they get the two roles mixed up because say if I went to the hospital, I had a dog bite on my leg, I would probably get a form from the hospital that they made up, and it says on the bottom, forward to animal control officer. And that's because a lot of towns will have their animal control officer a dual role as animal inspector as well. And that's the case in Whitman. But in Abington, we are not the animal inspector, and in Hanson, we're also not the animal inspector. So if someone has any concern regarding a quarantine of such or anything like that, they would have to go to the Board of Health, which appoints the animal inspector. Certainly if there's any question about its rabies vaccine or its licensing, that comes before the animal control officer.
And like you said, the public gets there very confused.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot getting it confused. And I worked with MDAR, and I've seen them confuse some of the roles. So
it does get confusing because, if I'm the animal control officer and the animal inspector in one town, the state would assume, or other people would assume, in Weymouth, they would be the animal inspector, animal control officer, but that could not be the case. Same thing in other towns too. So, there's also on the Division of Agricultural Resources website, there's a list of animal inspectors on there for hospitals, healthcare agencies, and even the public to view. And the website is a lot of dots, a lot of C's and slashes, so I don't know it. But if anyone was interested in looking at it, you could Google it. Just Google Mass Department of Agricultural Resources Animal Inspector list, and it'll pop right up.
Yes, so you have MDAR and the Board of Health, and they're responsible, and correct me if I'm wrong, for animal health issues. And animal control falls under the police departments, and you guys do control measures, stray animals, dead animals, injured animals,
Yep.
and such. But that's as deep as the animal control officer goes.
Yeah, in other towns, Pembroke, for example, their animal control officers, they report to the town administrator. In the town of Whitman, we report to the deputy police chief, which we're grateful to work for a great department. The men and women of the department are great. Same thing in Abington. We work for the town administrator, Abington, and working with them, it's great. And the same thing in Hanson. I haven't had a chance to meet the new town administrator yet, just because we're a little busy, but I'm certainly looking forward to meeting him. And in Hanson and Abington, we're under the town administrator. Really, we're under the Board of Selectmen, but since the town administrator is basically in charge of the day-to-day operations for the selectmen, we report to them. So it's different in the three towns that way too. It gets a little confusing for us.
So those are the fine details, but is contacting the ACO the same for all of the towns?
Yep, contacting us if there's any time there's an issue. If you have a general question, like you wanted to check the status of a dog that lives next door to you, you want to make sure it's licensed and vaccinated, you can call our business line, and we'll call you back. Our business line is 781-447-1522. It's listed on the town websites, and we have a Facebook page. It's listed on there as well. But if there's an immediate issue, like if you found a dog, you've been attacked by a dog, there's a dog hitting the road, or an animal that's hitting the road, definitely call the police department non-emergency number, and they'll contact us from there.
That's excellent to know. And we're entering summer. How, at this summer, and we have to worry about zoonotic diseases, arboviral diseases, heat stroke, how do we protect our pets? What advice can you give us?
Well, I can't go deep into the medical advice because I'm not a veterinarian. But the number one thing is, to consult with your vet and make sure that you have the correct flea, tick preventatives. And as far as the heat stroke and stuff, leave your dogs at home. If it's too hot outside for you, it's too hot outside for them. Even if you run into a store for 5 minutes, that dog could be sitting in the car, and even with the windows cracked 3 or 4 inches, if it's 80 degrees out there, it gets up to 125 in the car in 10 minutes. So it's definitely, it's not a joke. if your dog does die in a car because of the window being up, you can be charged with felony animal cruelty in the state of Massachusetts. So it's not taken lightly anymore. Cruelty to animals and neglect of animals is big nowadays. And we definitely don't want to have anyone with a deceased pet.
What happens if your pet was at a facility and got heat stroke from the facility and then passed because of it? Do you charge the facility? Or
there's certain circumstances for each event. We investigate thoroughly. The best thing to do is, if that happens, just immediately contact the animal control officer in the town. That way that we can start an investigation. But as far as charging each facility, it's depending on the circumstances, really, and the outcome of the investigation that we have.
And a lot of that goes on in your regional territory.
I wouldn't say a lot, but it happens. I've talked with Lieutenant Borgel from the Animal Rescue League, and he sees it a lot, and he's told me to watch out for it. Definitely when it gets hot out, and even people that if they're running and walking with their dog, and the dog they call us and, hey, my dog is having this episode on the side of the road, we will be more than happy to come out and help. Definitely. And we run into it. People, we're more than happy to answer questions if you have anything regarding heat stroke or stuff like that with animals. And as far as people getting charged and stuff like that, we have to investigate it thoroughly first.
Understandably so. Do the ACOs do pet CPR?
We do. We we're Lisa McKay, the other animal control officer. The two of us are certified by the Animal Control Officers Association of Massachusetts. We're certified animal control officers by the state, and throughout the certification process, we do go through pet CPR. And we'd probably be looking forward to, maybe in the future, not 100% sure, but offering that class to anyone who want to. We'd have to find someone who would be willing to do it. There might be a fee associated with it. But it kind of brought my attention when I went through the course to possibly offer that service to the public. Because a lot of people, they don't know what to do. If their dog if Spike had a hamburger and now Spike is choking, a lot of people will get confused, and minutes are precious when that happens.
Absolutely. And we've covered heat stroke and animal CPR and fleas and ticks, and ask your veterinarian, which is the proper one to use. What else can you tell the public this time of year to look out for? Wildlife. Would any wildlife cause concern or issues in their backyards?
A lot of wildlife, we're kind of almost done with the baby wildlife season, so to say. We have gotten a lot of calls about baby wildlife, suspected them being orphaned and left by their mothers. The best thing to do is, if you find baby wildlife, if you care, leave it there. That's what our major campaign is with the environmental police. If you find baby wildlife, either contact us or the environmental police to come out and assess it. Most likely, if you leave it there, it'll be fine. We've gotten calls for fawns and baby deer, in case anybody didn't know what a fawn was. And the best thing to do is leave it there. The mother will come back for it. The same thing goes for birds. But if a human intervenes and gets human scent on it, then the mother can reject the fawn or the baby bird or squirrel, whatever it might be. And then ultimately the animal will suffer. So the best thing to do is contact us whenever you suspect it.
What about rabies? How would those, I know in my area that the coyotes do not come out during the day, not even scavenging for their young, and we had one, but we also had a rabid raccoon, so just one and one goes together. But for those who haven't been in their neighborhoods their entire lives or just new to the areas, what kind of advice can you give them for rabid animals and animals that are just being abnormal?
You know, if you suspect that, the signs of being rabid would be not necessarily you would see this in like a dog or a cat, it being dizzy, but the thing that we will say to a lot of people when we get a wildlife call and they suspect that it's rabid, don't just look for foam in its mouth. If the skunk or fox, coyote, anything, except for a possum, they don't carry rabies. But if you see a raccoon or such and it's walking like it's intoxicated, it's foaming at the mouth, it's hissing, it's aggressive when you go near it, definitely give us a call and we have to come down and take the proper measures.
That's good. That's good to know.
And a lot of times, if you go out there and the raccoon, it's out there, it's eating your flower bed, which is unfortunate, but it just wanted a snack.
Right.
And you spray it with a hose, or you will clap pans at it or yell. Most likely the animal's going to run off. But in certain circumstances, like the raccoon that likes to feast at my house, he likes to get in the barrel, and I've sprayed him with the hose many times, and now he thinks it's enjoyable, especially in the summertime. So animals, they do get used to the actions. So don't be alarmed if you see Ricky the raccoon and you say, "Hey, get out of here," and you clap your hands and he doesn't go because the neighbor's done that before too.
I have a Ricky the raccoon that comes and sits on the porch and puts his paws up and puts his chin down and stares at the TV through the screen.
Well, he just wanted to watch Judge Judy.
I know. It took a lot to get used to, but so the public knows they're not always harmful.
Right, and they're not always rabid. They're not always going to come after you. Yeah, there's a concern for the children and all that, but, most of the time we have invaded their territory, so we have to become accustomed to them.
Yes, and if you want to avoid some of the wildlife coming into your yard, what can the folks at home do proactively to deter it?
Sure. The number one thing is when you have trash bags out, in Whitman we have those new lovely trash barrels, use them. Close the lid, take a bungee cord and put the bungee cord from the top lid down to the little bar in the center, and secure the trash barrels. That way they can't come in. Don't leave any food outside. After you're done with your grill, make sure you take the grease trap out and throw it out, or put a new one in there and bring it in the house. Do whatever you have to do. But raccoons love grease, and you'll see their paws all over your driveway when they're done feasting on the Weber grill. And also another thing is during the springtime and even sometimes during the fall is bird seeders and stuff like that. Squirrels will love bird seed and they will destroy your bird feeder. So make sure they're up high. You can get cylinders that go around the base of the feeder. And if you have any other really wildlife concerns, we don't. It's illegal for us and anyone to remove wildlife from your property. So if you have a raccoon or something up in your attic, we can't come in as animal control officers, but you would have to hire someone to come in and remove it. But you could also do the removal on your own. But the number one thing is to watch out for is you can't relocate wildlife in the state. It's illegal.
I bet a lot of folks didn't know that.
A lot don't. We get a lot of questions regarding that, and people will say, hey, I've got this squirrel, he's eating my tulips, can you come down and trap him and take him out of here? And we say, no, we can't. You would have to call a wildlife extractor. They would come down, but even they can't relocate wildlife, so ultimately the animal would be euthanized.
Okay, and as an animal control officer, there's a lot of emotions that come with it. You guys face a lot of different situations.
We do.
Life at home after the job. What's it like for you?
It gets stressful. At times what we have to see, it does take a toll on you. We are just humans. And we have 4 times more of the public contact than of our police department counterparts. No offense to you guys, love yous all, but we do, with the public, we have more contact with them, and that takes a toll on everyone that's in law enforcement. When you see things that are happening, and the police department are seeing overdoses and stuff like that, that takes an effect on the police officers, and then you look at us, and we have to deal with the animal side of things, and seeing an animal die on the side of the road, or an animal that's hit by a car, and we're kind of that animal's only last hope until we can find an owner and bringing it to the vet and stuff like that. So it is stressful at times, but other than times it is really rewarding when you get to you help the public and you also get to help an animal. So it outweighs itself.
That's good, and I'm sure you guys assist law enforcement with the opiate crisis if the person who has lost their life has pets.
Yeah, we do. We would offer if they need any help or assistance with anything like that. We certainly would help. We're out there to help anyone. We had a woman in Hanson who had contacted us. She fell on hard times, and we had brought cat litter and cat food over to her, just what we can to help her out a little bit. And yeah, we're community service oriented.
That's wonderful to know. And I know that now there's new pet sheltering regulations in place in Massachusetts. Can you educate us some on the specifics of pet sheltering?
Sure. So, a lot of people will call us and say, my neighbor's dog isn't barking for 45 minutes. Can you come over here and take the dog? And the answer is no. And it's not to be mean. It's no, because we can't. There are rights that people have. Unfortunately, pets are considered property in the state of Massachusetts, so we can't go and steal someone's property. There are laws against pet sheltering and dogs barking outside and stuff like that. Dogs barking past the noise ordinance time in town, that's a disturbance, would go through the police department and such. But dogs, if they're out between 7 and 10 in the 7 a.m., 10 p.m. at night, you have to have at least 100 square feet of shelter, of movable space for them. You have to have an enclosed shelter, so just a tarp over the pen isn't going to cut it. You have to have a space that will hold up to snow, ice, rain, wind. So if you have a little igloo or something like that, it has to be enough that the dog can walk in and stand up and move around freely. And it has to be kept in a sanitary and humane manner. There has to be enough food and water out there for them. And if there's not, you could be looking at felony animal cruelty. And we have come across that a couple of times. It hasn't resulted in a charge, but it has resulted in the owner being fined. And that's something that we're not going to take lightly. And definitely disturbing your neighbors. You want to be kind to your neighbors. Don't let the dog be outside barking and all that.
Absolutely. And then in an emergency situation, also, if the fire chiefs have decided that we've had some sort of natural disaster, and they're opening the warming shelter and the human shelters now, that you can bring your pets. Does the animal control officers play a role in the emergency pet sheltering too with the fire chiefs?
We do, and we are trained with FEMA. We've gone through NIMS training and ICS training. So we're just not animal control officers. There's a lot more to it now. But yes, we do. We definitely want to make sure that pets are safe along with their human companions. If you look at back in Hurricane Katrina, everyone came up from Louisiana and they were at Camp Edwards, and that was a massive CERT operation with the state and all of that. And granted, we hope that never happens here, but in the event that it does, we are prepared for it.
And that's excellent, because I know when Katrina happened, I was with mosquito control at the time, and we went down to lend a hand because many were dying from West Nile virus, and it was very unfortunate. But I know, being at the base down there, when we went, many wouldn't board the plane unless they could take their animals.
Right.
And we were amazed by this. They had roaring waters, and everybody was in danger of their lives, and they wouldn't leave their pets behind.
And that goes back to our first thing, pets have evolved. Pets are a part of the family nowadays, and they're not just evil if they run the streets.
No, and I think that's excellent. So when it comes to the pet sheltering, is there any limit on what folks can bring to the shelters with them?
And that would depend on the individual circumstances, depending on the space and all of that. Definitely, lizards, stuff like that, we would tend to go to an outside resource for. In an event that would be catastrophic, we would have the help of the MSPCA and the Animal Rescue League and other animal control officers as well. So we would basically join forces, and that's part of being a part of the Animal Control Officers Association, is so that towns around the state can join together in times of need.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you would like to stress to the public at this time?
Right about now is just please, if you're going to be out for any amount of time, make sure, even in your backyard, make sure your dog has plenty of water. Don't leave them out in direct sunlight. If you're going to be gone for the day, bring them in the house, put the air conditioner on. Do not leave your dog in the car, because we don't want to smash the window in. And we ultimately want the dog to be safe. Just make sure you watch out for ticks on the dogs, and especially with the 4th of July weekend coming up soon, in about a month or so, you need to be vigilant of that. Some dogs will get anxious with the fireworks and stuff like that, so definitely make sure that you turn the air conditioner on if your neighbors are lighting off fireworks, and make sure that they're not barking, because it's stressful to them, and you never want your kid to be stressed out, so you don't want your dog to be stressed out. But other than that, right about now, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to call our office. We'd be more than happy to help anyone out. If you need any assistance with dog food, cat litter, we'd be more than happy to help you. Just give us a call. Our number will be up on the board, and I'll tell you it's 781-447-1522. You can leave a message for ACO McKay or myself, ACO Kimball.
That's fantastic. And I have one last question, because we need to wrap up. And yes or no, can you take donations of food and litter?
We can. We can take monetary donations as well, and those could be dropped off. The cat food, cat litter can be dropped off at the Whitman Animal Shelter, which is 100 Essex Street. It's at the DPW facility. Gates are open from 7 in the morning till 2:45 in the afternoon. We just ask that people either put it out the front door of the shelter or in one of the kennels outside. And also, if anyone wanted to donate any money, donations could be made to the Whitman Animal Gift Account, and that would be in care of the Whitman Police Department. You could drop it off down in dispatch, or you could mail it.
Excellent. I would like to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And I hope everybody got to learn a few things. And please be proactive and protect your furry loved ones this summer. And I hope to see you again soon.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean.